All right, today we're gonna grow some habanero peppers from seed. The first thing you need is, of course, some habanero pepper seeds. These are really special habaneros. They're Amazonian habaneros. This is actually the mama plant that grew these maybe a few months ago. These are really spicy, flavorful. Oh my God, they are very potent. For these little guys, they are incredibly potent. Just this guy packs so much flavor and heat. Maybe I'll try one right now and let's see what that turns out like. Are you guys ready? Oh my God. I don't think I've ever done this before. I usually mix some kombuchas out of this as well. I add it to my kombucha for a sweet, spicy flavor. But right now I'm just gonna take a bite out of this little guy here. And yep, it is incredibly spicy. It's very, very spicy. Wow, but it's also so flavorful and fruity. I love it. For such a little piece of pepper, it's amazing. It packs so much flavor. These are my favorite things to grow too. Things that are little that you can't get in the things that you can't get in the supermarket that have a lot of flavor. A neighbor originally gave me these seeds and I was able to grow this whole plant. It's been through a few cycles, so I want to actually grow a fresh new plant. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a fresh berry that I think looks pretty good, and I'm just going to open it up. And there's probably quite a bit of seeds in here. I'm going to put it into some warm water. I can even just drop the whole seed in here. I probably got like 10 seeds out of this. I'm going to do one more. This one, I'm actually looking inside, and the seeds look a little brown, but I'm just gonna use the ones that are good. So now the seeds here, they can really just sit for 12 hours or so. They're just kind of soaking it to soften up that original layer out in the front of the seeds. You can even let it sit overnight. And after that, what you want to do is just put it on like a thicker piece of paper towel. Here's one of these reusable type of paper towels. You want to soak it. So I'm going to use my spray bottle. I want to get it just a little bit wet. You don't want it to be soaking wet, dripping wet, but you want it to be pretty moist. You can see it's moist to the touch, but it's not dripping. I'm just going to take these seeds one by one. I'm gonna put them in here. You can also just filter them out. I'm actually probably gonna do that. I'm gonna clean this guy and I'm gonna filter them out. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to just drain this, and I have all the seeds right in here. This will hopefully just catch most of the seeds. And I'm just gonna spread them out. And some people wonder if you can do this with supermarket habanero. Yeah, you can grab one at the supermarket. Try to pick an organic plant. You'll probably get a better quality plant and it will have a higher chance of succeeding at home. Another hack that some people do, which is optional, you can throw some cinnamon powder on the plant. It's going to stop microbes from growing. You can actually use it to put on the ends of plants when you're transplanting them. It stops any microbes. I'm just going to fold this. One thing I thought that I was wrong is that these need to see light. They actually don't. They can be in complete dark and you don't need to keep them outside. And the first mistake I made here was after I did this, making the seeds face up and making them sit outside. The reason you don't want to do that is because the sun can really heat this up. It's not effective for the seeds to see the sunlight, and then having an inconsistent temperature is really not great for the seeds to germinate. I actually sealed this, but not all the way. I left about maybe a ½ inch open. The reason I do this is because you want to have a little bit of airflow. If all the oxygen is sucked out of this environment, it can be really not useful for the germination. So you want to leave a little bit of airflow. You basically want enough for the moisture to sit inside, but have a little space for oxygen to come in. And once you have this, if you have a heating pad at home, you want to put it on the heating pad and leave it there at 80 degrees. I actually personally don't have a heating pad at home. So I heard this tip about putting it in the back of a fridge. It's true, the back of my fridge is actually perfectly about 80, 85 degrees. And I just found the warm spot. I was feeling around the back of the fridge and I found like where the part where it was exuding heat was, and I just taped it and I put it there. And I actually did this a few days ago. And here's the habanero peppers that I did. And now we're gonna check on them. And I take a look. Usually you should expect that it could take about a week to 2 weeks for these to start to germinate. In this case, I'll be honest with you, I am shocked. that these have already started to germinate just after 3-4 days. But really, when I've done this in the past, it's taken up to a week or longer. But as we can see here, you can see the start of some germination here. I see the little seeds coming out. Some of these are actually good enough where I can really plant them into the dirt. Some of these are ready to go, which is really amazing. And again, I'm surprised. And when you take these out, you really have to be careful not to harm these seed roots. So once they're germinated, what you want to do, another important thing with these peppers, not just habanero peppers, but most hot peppers, you want to create something that can hold the moisture, but also drains. So you want only about 20 to 30% of actual gardening soil. And then you want to mix it with perlite, you want to mix it with sand, you want to have a loose soil. And you want to drop these about a 1/2 inch. And then you don't want to put it somewhere big. Actually, these habaneros, they like to take up the entire space. So this is one I just put in here. As you can see, this is probably about a few weeks to a month later, and it's growing out pretty good. And then once it gets to about this size, I mentioned this in my earlier video introducing my garden, but you want to cut it off right here. Once it's about this size, what that does, instead of it growing vertically, it starts to grow like a bush, and you have something that looks more like this down the line rather than just one vertical plant. So this plant, it's definitely a hot pepper, but I'm not sure if it's a habanero. It's gonna be one of these gardener surprises. I got these seeds from a guy who grows hot peppers, and he gave me a whole mix of them. And I just did what you saw here, hoping to get a surprise. So I'm pretty sure it's a habanero. Let's see what this ends up growing up being. If you stick around, you can find out what the surprise is with me. Again, I'm not really sure what type of pepper this is gonna be, but I know it's gonna be a hot pepper. For my seeds that have germinated, they just have a little bit, not even a 1/4 inch of roots. You should kind of wait till you see some green. But I think I'm just ready to plant these in. So what I'm gonna do, because they're still in the germination stage, I'm just not gonna plant them too deep. The important thing you want here is to only use about 30% actual soil. And then you wanna mix it with perlite and something else to keep in the moisture. You're looking for something that's a little bit of a fluffy soil mixture, and it's pretty important. So I'm just giving each of these about a scoop. And because I don't really have these seed starter pieces, I might 3D print them later. I'm just gonna use these. I'm gonna put the seeds about 2 inches apart, and I'm gonna let them compete. I'm gonna pick the best one, and I'm gonna take out the other one later. Because again, I don't have that much space. Maybe you don't have that much space either, but I'm only gonna be able to keep 1 or 2 of these maximum. I like getting my hands in the dirt personally. Feels nice. So once I have this fluffy mixture I'm looking for, on both ends of it, just a couple little holes here to drop in the seeds. So I'm gonna drop it in about a 1/4 of an inch. I'm just taking my best guys. I dropped one in here. I'm gonna drop one in here. And I'm being really careful with these roots as I take them out of the paper towel. This one here, we have a full root. I'm gonna drop it in here as well. And I'm just gonna keep these somewhat moist, but never soggy. I'm gonna add them to my irrigation system so they get just enough water, they're not soggy, and I'm gonna leave them outside because they're still germinating. They still need the consistent heat. Where I am, the weather's pretty consistent and can reach up to 80 degrees. So I think it's gonna work out just fine for these. Depending on where you are, you might have to keep these inside still. And then once they start showing first green bits, you still actually wanna keep them in the shade. You don't wanna introduce them to strong direct sunlight right away, but eventually you do wanna introduce them to strong sunlight. If your seeds for some reason aren't germinating, it's probably because it's either too dry, too cold, or maybe you just have it in direct sunlight so that you don't have a consistent temperature. So you really want it to be just damp enough with a little air, keep it somewhere warm, and then make sure to be patient. My first set took 2 weeks. I'm excited to see how these do. You can take your bets whether they'll grow or not. We'll find out in the next video. You can subscribe. And also in a future video, what I'd really like to make is I'd like to pack all this flavor into a tincture, specifically a non-alcoholic tincture that I can use and add to things to get that habanero flavor and have it preserved for a long time. So if you follow along for a future video, I'll teach you how to pack all the flavor that you've grown into something that's preserved that you can use in other things. So thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.